everybody, welcome back to another episode of In the Kitchen with Lisa. I am your host, personal chef Lisa Spampinato, and today I'm bringing you back to fall. The leaves have started to turn and they're falling on the ground, and I figure it's about time to change up the recipes a little bit. So today we're going to do a really nice fall-inspired recipe, also inspired by Michigan wineries. We are going to do a chicken breast that's stuffed with a thyme, pecan, cherry, goat cheese stuffing, and served with a cherry wine reduction sauce from one of our local wineries here. So let me just go over the simple ingredients for you really quick. Over here we've got some beautiful Traverse City dried cherries here, about a clove and a half of garlic, some nice fresh pecans, a little salt, a little pepper, a little oil. I'm using a peanut oil today, but you can use the vegetable or canola oil, and a little bit of molasses and some goat cheese. When we make our reduction, we'll talk about those ingredients later. Over here, I've got some fresh chicken breast. So let's start by just prepping our chicken breast. So I'm just going to trim this a little bit, get rid of the stuff on the chicken breast that I don't like. These look pretty good though, I have to say. So it shouldn't be too much work. And this is a recipe actually that I'm going to be guest chefing for the upcoming Ella Sharp Taste for the Arts fundraiser. We're going to be doing this and probably a basmati rice and a couple other things. So it should be a nice evening with some fall-inspired food. Okay, you can see I've kind of just cut it into two. Makes it real simple. So what we're going to do at that point is stuff it and roll it, and then we'll go from there. Let me just do one more and then we'll get started on our stuffing. So I've got my food processor here, and what I'm going to add to that is about a cup and a half to a cup and a quarter to a cup and a half of those dried cherries, about a quarter of a cup of pecans, about a clove to a clove and a half of garlic. You can throw in a fresh clove, it doesn't have to be pre-minced, that's fine. About a half a teaspoon of salt, a little bit of fresh ground pepper, about a tablespoon of molasses, and this is just your regular molasses. I'm not using the black strap or the heavy. Okay. And we're going to save this molasses because some of this is going to go in the reduction for the sauce too. And about a tablespoon of peanut oil. Now before we go ahead and add our goat cheese, I'm going to go ahead and process this mixture and get it combined and broken down a little bit. It's kind of grainy and the pieces are just broken down to little, like almost pebble size. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and add our goat cheese. And this is like a semi-soft to soft goat cheese. You can buy it crumbled, you can buy it whole, it's fine. We need about a cup. Yeah, that looks pretty good actually. Everything's incorporated nicely. You can see once you add that goat cheese, it's a little bit lighter in color. Before we go ahead and stuff, let's go ahead and put our fresh thyme in. So I need about 2 tablespoons of this. I'm going to go ahead and just take these leaves off the stalks, give them a rough chop, and then mix them in. I'm just going to run my knife through it really quick. And give it a good rough chop. And we're going to go ahead and add that to our mixture. And that is going to make a world of difference. So we've got a lot of nice, fresh, bold flavors popping here. So I've gone ahead and covered these with some saran wrap and given them a good pounding with my meat palette just to flatten them out a little bit so that we've got a little bit more surface area to work with. I've gone ahead and preheated my oven to 375 degrees because I am going to pan sear these, but then I am going to finish them off in the oven to make sure they're thoroughly cooked all the way through. So let's go ahead and get to stuffing and rolling. Just going to take a little bit of that stuffing, spread it out a little bit. Try and tuck the sides in. It's not always going to cooperate for you, and that's okay. All right. So there's one, and I'm just going to take my toothpick. Whoop. All right, I'm just going to take a couple toothpicks and kind of spear it through to just hold it together for me. 1, 2, and let's do one more, maybe on an angle there. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll this, lightly dredge it in the flour. Get the ends coated a little bit too. And I'm going to place that seam side down for now while I do the rest of them. You can see all the pretty colors of the thyme and the cherries. Really nice. Okay. There's another one. And take our toothpick. Just run it through. And you want to make sure you see both sides of the toothpicks because you're going to have to take these out later. So it's helpful if you can see both ends and just pull on it. So we talked about my oven is preheated to 375. I've gone ahead and rolled out the other 2 chicken breasts, so we've got 4 total. Nice dinner for 4. And I've got a pan on high to medium high, and I've already got my olive oil in there smoking, so we're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and pan sear these, and I'm going to place them not seam side down, okay? And I don't want to crowd the pan, so actually 4 in here will be just fine at once. Any more than that I wouldn't do, because you don't want to steam them, you want to sear them. And you know, everybody asks me all the time, what kind of pans do you use? Do you use non-stick? Do you use the regular? I very rarely will use non-stick. For stuff like this, I prefer to use a regular stainless steel pan because it's going to give you that nice browning. And when the protein in the meat cooks, it's going to release itself, just like it does when you're grilling something on the grill outside. So as long as you've got your pan coated with some olive oil or some other kind of oil or butter, and you watch it and you let it do its thing, it's going to release on its own. It's going to give you a nice pan sauce if you need one. So this is one of my favorite go-to pans. You've probably seen it on here over and over and over again. The non-stick I'll use more for something like risotto, if I'm making a big batch of risotto. And you can see already I'm starting to get a nice little golden brown there. I'm going to let it go a little bit more and then I'm going to flip it. If your stuffing kind of sneaks out on the side a little bit, it's okay. Just push it back in. You're going to get that when you cook it in the oven too. It's going to ooze out a little bit, and that's okay. It's going to add to the flavor and get mixed in with the sauce later. So while these are still going, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my stove top. And this is an oven-safe pan, so I'm going to go ahead and just put this in my preheated 375-degree oven. Okay, and I'm going to remember when I go to take it out to use a pot holder so I don't burn myself. And we're going to let this go for about, I'm going to check it in 15 minutes. So let me set the timer. We're going to get started on our pan sauce. So we're going to be using I've got today a beautiful cherry wine from a local winery. And we have got a bunch of local wineries. Michigan has become very well known for local wine, just like parts of New York have. So it's really nice that we have access to great wine. All right, so I've got my beautiful cherry wine. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get it into my pot, which is apparently very hot. And I'm probably going to use, I've used over half a bottle of wine. I don't think I needed quite that much, but we're going to reduce it down, so that's fine. Okay. And what I'm going to add to that in a little while is some more of those beautiful dried cherries, some of the molasses, a little bit of butter at the end, a little bit of heavy cream at the end to give it a nice, thick, creamy kind of feel, and some sugar. And that sugar is going to help it reduce down and get a little thicker as well. So I've got this on high right now. I'm going to reduce it down to like a medium high. And I'm going to add a little sugar as well. Okay. And we're just going to let that go, let it come up to a boil, reduce it down to a simmer, and let it go. Okay, so now it's just kind of a waiting and watching game, just for a little bit. As you can see, I've got this boiling. I've added a little bit more sugar to it just to make it a little thicker, a little more viscous. And I'm going to go ahead and add about a tablespoon of that molasses. And I'm just going to eyeball it. So it's going to give it, again, a little bit more thickness and some more sweetness. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw those cherries in so that they can absorb some of the alcohol that hasn't cooked off yet. Okay. And we're going to let that go just for a little bit more. Okay, I've gone ahead and turned off my oven. I still have my sauce going. We're almost done with that. I'm going to take these out and let them rest just a little bit. Put them over here on the trivet. You can see they've browned up nicely, and some of that stuffing has oozed out, and that's okay. It's going to be great in the pan sauce. So let's come on over here, and while those rest, let's finish our pan sauce up. It's simmering away. It's thickened up nicely, and those cherries have absorbed everything, so it's going to be delicious. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of heavy cream in. Not a specific amount. I'm just going to eyeball it, maybe a tablespoon or two. We'll see. And I'm going to whisk it while I'm adding it. That looks good to me. And at this point, I'm actually going to add a little salt and a little pepper. Okay. You can add a little more fresh thyme if you want as well, if you've got some left over. Okay, I'm going to turn that back up to high and let the heat do its magic with that cream in there. And I'm going to add a little bit of butter just to give it a little bit of gloss at the end. Okay. So I've got everything plated up. I've got the chicken on a nice fall themed platter here. And we let it rest a little bit so that all those juices kind of come back in. And whatever was kind of oozing out of the chicken roll-ups, we've put into the wine reduction and mixed it up and let it reduce down a little bit more. So we've got a beautiful wine reduction sauce with all the flavors of fall in it. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit on top. Beautiful color. Just a little bit syrupy. There we go. Perfect. We can go ahead and garnish with a little bit of fresh thyme. Whoop. Okay, a little on that end, a little on that end. There we go. I like to make it even. Let's give one of these a taste and see how it is. Take the smallest one on the end here. See if I can get you guys a nice view of the inside. There we go. You can see the little bit of the filling rolled around the chicken on the inside. Packed full of flavor. Yum. Chicken is nice and tender too, just right. Get some of that filling and some of the cherry in there. That's so good. And the goat cheese just kind of cuts the extra sweetness just right. So you get a mixture of flavor, texture, everything. Delicious. And not too hard. So you know the deal, guys. If you'd like this recipe or any of our other recipes, just contact the studio at 517-787-8817 or viewer mail at jtv.tv and we'd be happy to forward it on to you. Thanks for joining us. Happy fall, and we'll see you next time on In the Kitchen with Lisa.